Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back in this auditorium for Media Foundation after a gap of 2 years, and all of you know the reasons why. May I ask everyone to settle down and maybe ask Dr. Reddy, Mr. Khare, and Arefa to please come on stage. So this is the 7th year of the B.G. Verghese Memorial Lecture and 40 years of the Chameli Devi Award ceremony. As I said, last 2 years we had to do it online, and we're very happy that you all could join us and we could actually do it physically, thanks to IIC, Mr. Srivastav and Tete and others. I just want to say one thing at the top, because I think it would be unfair not to. In these 2 years, we've lost over almost 500 journalists in India alone, and around 1,400 doctors. This is not including all the other medical, those in the health profession. And I think Media Foundation would certainly like to just mourn these terrible losses. And now I would like to invite Mr. Harish Khare, who is the chair of the Media Foundation. He is to come and take the program forward. Mr. Khare, just a couple of words. Senior journalist, editor, most of you know him, author. He's also been associated with the Hindu and the Tribune. Also has been a media advisor to the PMO. He has ably steered the Media Foundation for us, the Media Foundation ship, for the last 3 years. Mr. Khare.
Good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you. It indeed feels very nice to be here in the auditorium, a familiar place, after the disruptions caused by the pandemic to our familiar ways of doing things. I am particularly delighted to extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker this evening, Dr. Professor Srinath Reddy. We are grateful to him for so graciously accepting our invitation to deliver this year's BG Memorial Lecture. Before we kick-start this evening's festivities, so to say, please do permit me to say a few words about the Media Foundation. This organization, called the Media Foundation, was thought of and set up in 1979 by a group of high-minded citizens and media personalities, most of whom were baffled, dismayed, and disturbed at the ease with which the authorities during the emergency could simply shut down the paraphernalia of a free press. This was a wake-up call for many such high-minded people, and so it was conceived that we should have an organization which will dedicate itself to the idea of freedom of speech, expression, information, and indeed freedom in society at large. His founding members were B.G. Verghese, Lakshmi Jain, Prabhat Joshi, N.S. Jagannathan, Ajit Bhattacharjee, and I'm particularly pleased to recognize Devi Jain. The Jain family has been a great source of support and encouragement to the Media Foundation. In honor of Mr. B.G. Verghese, who passed away in 2014, the Media Foundation thought of instituting a memorial lecture in his honor. And since 2015, we have had this annual event, and our speakers have included Honorable Gopal Gandhi, who graces us this evening with his presence, Jairam Ramesh, Justice E.P. Shah, the Honorable Hamid Ansari, Justice Madan Lapoor, and last year our guest speaker was Ellen Rush Bridger, the former editor-in-chief of The Guardian. And in continuation of this list of distinguished speakers, we have Dr. Srinath Reddy this evening. The Media Foundation, over the years, I think in 1980, instituted an annual Chameli Devi Jain Award for an outstanding woman journalist. This is named after Devkiji's mother-in-law, Lakshmi Bai's mother, who was a great freedom fighter and a community reformer, and during freedom struggle, she had a number of innings in the jail. The award is partly endowed by the Jain family, and we are grateful to them. The award was given in 1982 first, and has included some of the best known and respected names in Indian journalism. It has been awarded to journalists writing on such diverse themes as social development, politics, equity, gender justice, human rights, health, war and conflict, consumer values. The list of awardees have included well-known names like Neerja Chaudhary, Usha Rai, Pamela Philippos, Sunita Narayan, Nirupma Subramanian, Patricia Mukim, and also journalists from smaller towns who do stellar work but rarely find recognition. While the Chameli Devi Award is a recognition of outstanding work of a journalist, I believe in the process, and this is an important point which I need to, that in the process we are reaffirming and reasserting the basic duties and obligations of journalism in a democratic and civilized society. The selection is made by an independent jury. This year, the jury was headed by Ms. Nirupma Subramanian and included Ms. Geeta Hariharan and Mr. Ashutosh. And before I invite Ms. Geeta Hariharan to read the juror's report, I particularly wish to emphasize that we could not think of a better speaker this evening than Dr. Srinath Reddy, who will talk on a theme which has touched each one of our lives in some way or the other. Now, Ms. Geeta Hariharan. Thank you.
Thank you, as we're quite proud to be part of the jury. And before I read the juror's report, I want to give you the good news that I think journalism, if we are to go by the entries we read, is flourishing. In fact, let me stick my neck out and say that it seems to be doing better than fiction. The three-member jury is pleased to announce that the winner of the 2021 Chameli Devi Jain Award for an outstanding woman journalist is Arefa Johari from Scroll.in. Arefa's work stood out for its combination of meticulous reportage, humanism and empathy, and the craft of writing long form without losing grip on the narrative, all traits reflecting a high order of journalistic excellence. Her reports, whether on the employees of the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation done out of permanent jobs, or on ASHA workers in Madhya Pradesh struggling with the arbitrary switch to a new software, or how the diamond dust industry was hit by demonetization, displayed a journalistic expertise that is perhaps fast disappearing from the profession as it is practiced in the country under the onslaught of source-based reportage. She has succeeded in telling stories about people who would otherwise remain voiceless, such as the stories of the women who left their homes in Jharkhand to work in the textile mills of Tamil Nadu. Stories such as this show how India is changing in ways that may seem barely visible on the surface, as people struggle to survive on a daily basis, winning some, losing some, amid structural and systemic dysfunctions, and that too during a raging pandemic. In that sense, these are reports that tell a bigger story about the country. The ideas that have driven Arefa's work clearly needed the proverbial reporter's nose to smell them out from behind the everyday headlines about apparently mundane happenings that often get dismissed in small single-column reports. Arefa sussed out these stories from behind these headlines and macro numbers to tell gripping stories about real people. It also needed personal commitment to travel during the pandemic to different places to meet these people. The Chameli Devi Jain Award for an Outstanding Woman Journalist is hard fought each year. Arefa was selected as the winner from a total of 48 entries in English and other Indian languages from across the country. While most entries were in English, 7 were in Hindi, 3 in Malayalam, and one each in Marathi and Tamil. From the overall number, 10 were shortlisted. The entries from Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Mysore, Thiruvananthapuram, Srinagar, Pune, and Bengaluru covered a wide range of issues relating to health, environment, science, foreign policy, and even nuclear energy. Several entries were well researched and made laudable attempts to analyze current issues. It was gratifying to have multiple entries from places difficult for journalists to work in, such as Kashmir. We do hope that we can have many more entries from languages other than English next time. Unfortunately, only a handful of the entries were from print newspapers and only 1 from television. The jury also noted that almost all the shortlisted entries, reflecting the changing face of journalism in India, were from the new media, the small, digital and/or alternative platforms, which, despite resource constraints, are providing space for excellence in journalism. And if I may digress and say this is important to remember, considering what happened yesterday and the journalists who have been victimized. All the shortlisted entries were long-form reports. The jury records its deep appreciation for all the nominees for their journalism at a time when the credibility and freedom of the media continue to be attacked by those who do not want these stories to be told. Thank you.
Shall we give a round of applause for our winner? And Arefa's mother is here with us in the auditorium. Let's give her a round of applause too. The Media Foundation is honored to present the Chameli Devi Jain Award for an Outstanding Woman Journalist 2021 to Arefa Johari, currently engaged with Scroll.in's Common Ground project. Ms. Johari is recognized because her journalism is informed by sensitivity and insightfulness as she seeks to uncover injustices at the interaction of gender and labor. She has probed how women workers, be it in Gujarat or Tamil Nadu, as Geeta mentioned, or in Madhya Pradesh, gets shortchanged as familiar tricks of discrimination and exploitation are played on them. Arefa Johari is honored because her journalism is guided by the simple principle of a reporter's duty to look beneath the comfortable and convenient lies and half-lies that the authorities, both public and private, claim in defense of their malpractices and missteps. Her work is an outstanding example of a reporter's everyday privilege to help society demand fairness and justness. Arefa Johari is applauded because her journalism imbibes the reporter's basic obligation to question the assumptions and certitudes of the official orthodoxy at all levels of governance. Her ground-level reporting of municipal misgovernance in Mumbai provides a classic example of how governmental stupidities and maladroitness end up hurting the most vulnerable and marginalized sections of our society. This enterprising journalist is commended because in her work she remains mindful of the reporter's responsibility not to get taken in by demands of conformity made in the name of nationalism and national security. In her insightful report published on the 5th anniversary of demonetization, she documented the differential impact of the economic upheavals in the formal and informal sectors. In the process, she demonstrated how it is necessary to challenge the priorities and platitudes of the governing classes. Arefa Johari's journalism stands out for its refusal to get intimidated by authorities at a time when the Indian media is being widely perceived as having lost its institutional spine and professional elan. Her courageous journalism makes her a role model in this age of cynicism and conformity. This was the juror's citation. May I now request Dr. Reddy to present the citation and the award to our awardee. Thank you. With this, we now move, Arefa, you can sit in the audience and enjoy the second half now of the B.G. Verghese Memorial Lecture. Every year when we hold this, we miss Mr. Verghese immensely. Oh, her citation. I'm so sorry. My million apologies. 5-minute acceptance speech from the podium. Come here.
I actually get really nervous talking in front of the public, so I kind of rejoice for a minute when you call. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. Thank you to the members of the jury and to everyone at the Media Foundation. It is truly an honor to receive this award, not only because of everything it stands for, but also because it is an honor to be in the company of so many other illustrious women who have received it before me. One of them is my own editor, Supriya Sharma, who's here. And she was the first digital media journalist to receive this award in 2015. Supriya is one of the most brilliant reporters in India today, and I have spent my time at Scroll always looking up to her and wanting to emulate her work. In the past few years, she has also been a brilliant and inspiring editor. Her leadership, guidance, and insights have shaped and improved all of the work that I'm being recognized for today. So thank you, Supriya. Scroll has been my home for the past 8 years, and I could not have asked for a better place to be a journalist in. At a time when we are witnessing the erosion of our democracy on a daily basis, and when the space for independent media is rapidly shrinking, Naresh Fernandez and Samir Patil have created a platform that fights for true journalism of integrity. I want to specifically thank Naresh for giving me the opportunities that have shaped me, for allowing me so much flexibility at Scroll, and for being patient with me all these years. I decided to become a journalist at a very young age, perhaps when I was 10 or 11, mainly because I loved writing and wanted to be a writer. So when I started my career 12 years ago, I knew very little about reporting and the skills that I would need to develop in order to be a good reporter. I learned all of that on the job. All I knew was that I wanted to write about meaningful things, and I have been fortunate to have editors, both at Hindustan Times, where I worked earlier, and then at Scroll, editors who recognized my passions and assigned me to beats that perfectly suited my sensibilities. I've written over the years about communities and culture, urban development, and various aspects of social justice. In the past year, however, I've been able to write in-depth narrative long-form reports on two beats that I particularly feel passionately about: gender and labor. These are the reports that this award has recognized me for, and so I'd like to speak a little bit about some of the people at the heart of these stories. People like Deepak Pawar and Pramila Dabi, who are Dalit Safai Karamcharis working on the streets of Mumbai. Thousands of sweepers like them work full-time to keep the city clean, but some of them have been given well-paying permanent jobs in Mumbai's municipal corporation, while others, like Deepak and Pramila, have been arbitrarily labeled as volunteers who are not even entitled to a minimum wage. Last year, Deepak Pawar had to spend 3 weeks in jail for trying to protest this exploitative system. Then there are people like Mahmooda Sayed in Madhya Pradesh and Gangamma in Karnataka, women who've spent decades serving as Anganwadi workers under India's massive 45-year-old scheme to tackle malnutrition. For those who may not know much about them, Anganwadi workers are essentially an army of exclusively female frontline workers who are responsible for the health and education of young children in every village. They monitor the height and weight of every child below the age of 6. They feed them specially prepared nutritious meals. They make sure they are vaccinated. They also make sure that pregnant women are eating well, and they also serve as preschool teachers. And if all of that is not enough, the government also uses them to implement all kinds of other schemes at the village level. But just like the Safai Karamcharis of Mumbai, Anganwadi workers are also labeled as volunteers, and they're also denied minimum wages or pensions or any other social security benefits. I'm talking about these workers because their concerns are always lost in the headlines in the mainstream media, particularly these days when issues of communal and political polarization have taken center stage. It is easy to forget how much we as a country rely on the labor of women and Dalits to carry out our most essential functions, and yet we expect that labor to come pretty much for free. It's a travesty of justice, and I often feel helpless when I see the state has no intention to address it. So writing these stories of these invisible workers and dedicating this award to them is the least I can do. Thank you very much once again.